Hello everyone and welcome to another Tri-tutors video. In today's video we're going to be unpacking some important quotes from Act 5 of William Shakespeare's Othello. Please remember to have a look at the video on how to write a literature essay, and also there's another video about how to integrate quotes. So going through these quotes you'll be able to understand them in terms of what they mean and what themes and characters they apply to. But if you watch that video, you'll see how to select quotes to study and how to integrate them into your essay to make your evidence more meaningful. I've also done a model essay video for Othello where I've unpacked the topic and given you a sort of example or an exemplar of how you can go about answering that essay question. So I would advise that you look at those videos after watching this one. So, Act 5, Scene 1. Fear nothing, I'll be at thy elbow, it makes us or it mars us. Iago says this to Rodrigo, so if we just cast our minds back, Rodrigo has just confronted Iago and said, what you've promised me has not really matched what's actually happening. When am I going to get Desdemona? I've given you all my money, sort of thing. Have you just betrayed me? And Iago manipulates him again. And he says, no, what we need to do now is we need to go and kill Cassio and I need your help. And here Iago says to Rodrigo, I'll be at thy elbow, like I'm going to help you. I'll be right here as you try and kill him. I'll be your backup. And he says, it makes us or it mars us. Like this night is a big deal. It's going to determine whether they're successful or whether they're not. But truly, it's actually just Iago. Rodrigo doesn't really have much invested in this, and that leads to the next line. I have no great devotion to the deed, because he's been instructed by Iago to kill Cassio, and Rodrigo's like, I don't really want to kill Cassio. I'm not really devoted to the idea of it, but he's been manipulated so much. So that's a good quote to emphasize how manipulative, or the power of Iago's manipulation. Every way makes my gain. So Iago is such a mastermind that he's figured out that whatever happens tonight, in terms of if Rodrigo kills Cassio, Cassio kills Rodrigo, it's all to his gain, it's all to his benefit. Iago keeps his word. So Othello overhears some sort of disturbance and he says, Iago's keeping his word, he's getting rid of Cassio for me, as they discussed. Brave Iago, honest and just. So whereas Act 5, Scene 1, Othello still has not recognized Iago's true nature. Thy bed, lust-stained, shall with lust's blood be spotted. So now Othello is planning on killing Desdemona. Well, he's been planning for a while, but now he's actually committed to the deed. And he says that he's going to kill her in their marital bed because she has, destroyed sort of their marriage contract. And so it's only fitting that she should die in their marital bed. A very valiant fellow. So Lodovico says this about Othello, once again emphasizing this theme of reputation and honor, which we're going to see comes crumbling down in Act 5, Scene 2, once, which is quite ironic because Othello's entire madness is about protecting his own reputation and his honor, and he's going to land up losing it as a result of this crazy jealousy and obsession with maintaining and protecting his honor. We did a very vain fellow. Oh, inhuman dog, this is Rodrigo, one of his last words as he dies. So he cries out, oh, inhuman dog. He's finally realized Iago's true nature. I do suspect this trash to be party in this injury. This is Iago about Bianca. He's got his way, he's very close to getting his way. Othello is killing Desdemona. He's got rid of Rodrigo. Okay, he hasn't got rid of Cassio, that's for sure. But he then ropes in Bianca, who is, if you remember correctly from previous acts, who is a prostitute who's in love with Cassio, because she comes running in, and he tries to blame the whole Rodrigo's actions on Bianca, even though no one really even suspects him at this point. He's still trying to pass off the blame and cause drama. Guiltiness will speak, though tongues were out of use. So this is still Iago talking to Bianca. I am no strumpet, but of life as honest as you that thus abuse me. This is Bianca, and she actually says this in regard to Emilia, because Bianca can be seen as a sort of contrast to Emilia and Desdemona, who are these virtuous, wealthy, or not wealthy, but maybe upper class women. And Bianca as a prostitute is maybe lower on the hierarchical class system. But she says, I am no strumpet, I am just as moral, just as virtuous as you are. And so that's a really interesting point, this theme of, once again, bringing up this theme of honor, theme of reputation, what your name says about you, who you are, and, maybe it's not entirely accurate in terms of your title or your status being true to who you are. This is the night that either makes me or fordoes me quite. Iago. That's a really good quote, because this is sort of the culmination of everything that he's worked towards. All of his different manipulation strategies have all culminated this moment, and he recognizes that either he's going to fail really miserably or he's going to be extremely successful. Act 5, Scene 2. I'll not shed her blood. So now Othello is actually in the bedchamber, and he's going to kill Desdemona. But he says he's not going to shed her blood, and even though it's a really interesting sort of thing that's going through his head at the moment, because he still believes that Desdemona is good, and he does love her, and he thinks that she's pure, and that's why she has this idea like he doesn't want to shed her blood. But at the same time, he's 100% certain that he is going to kill her, because he's been poisoned so deeply that he feels like it's an obligation at this point, like he's obliged to kill her, even though he maybe doesn't want to. She must die. I mean, that's very indicative of, like, actually he does have a choice, but in his mind he doesn't, which is interesting. When I've plucked thy rose, I cannot give it vital growth again. Now, this is a really important quote. It's sort of easy to gloss over it, but I think it's really significant, because often you'll get an essay about, is Othello responsible for his own fate? Is he the one? Can we blame him for what happens to him? Or is his tragic demise his fault? Or is it Iago's fault? Or is it Cassio's fault? Who is it? Whose fault is it? And this, if you do want to prove, remember, you can try and prove anything as long as you have the right justification. That's what's so amazing about English. When you write an essay like this, you don't have to argue. You can argue for and you can argue against. And you can get good marks either way as long as you justify it appropriately. And so this quote is, if you ever want to prove that Othello is responsible or that he understands his actions, this is a great one, because he basically says that when I have killed Desdemona, I know that she's not going to come back. So he recognizes the finality of her death. And in that way, he is really aware of what he's doing by killing his wife and what repercussions that might have. And he can be held responsible. He's not, he is in a jealous rage, I think that's fair to say, but he is still aware of his actions and their consequences. And he can be blamed. So that's, if you do want to prove that it's Othello's fault, then you definitely can use that quote. The sorrow's heavenly, it strikes where it doth love. This is once again his sort of mixed feelings. He's like, I sort of, I still love her, and then that's why his sorrow is so great, because he must kill her apparently. I would not kill thy unprepared spirit, nor heavens forfend. I would not kill thy soul. Othello says over here that he demands Desdemona that she prays for forgiveness, because at this time and in this sort of religious space, if you were going to die, you don't want to be dying doing something, you want to have atoned for your sins before you die. So he doesn't want to send Desdemona to hell, so he tells her to confess and to ask for forgiveness so that she can die and go to heaven. So he says he's not that bad, right? He says that he's going to give her this opportunity to pray. Why should I fear? I know not, since guiltiness I know not. Desdemona says this to Othello. She says, I don't know, I'm not guilty at all. I haven't done anything wrong. They are loves I bear to you. Desdemona says to Othello. She doesn't understand what she needs to be upset about, what she needs to be asking forgiveness for. Some bloody passion shakes your very frame. This is such a great quote in terms of the theme of passion versus reason, because Othello is not thinking reasonably. He has been driven by passion. Remember, at the beginning we saw him being quite a rational, reasonable figure, and then he morphs into this extremely passion-filled, jealous person. And so Desdemona comments on Othello how he's completely consumed and engulfed by passion. For to deny each article with oath cannot remove nor choke the strong conception that I do grain withal. Thou art to die. Othello says that to Desdemona. He basically says, even if you deny every single article of this, even if you deny every single aspect of the truth, or of what he thinks is the truth, he will still kill her. So even if she proclaims that she is, innocent, he's still going to kill her. And that's the theme of fate versus free will, because we can argue that Othello does have free will in this instance. Like, he can choose. He doesn't have to kill her. He doesn't give her an opportunity to even say, that she didn't do it. He's not going to listen to her. He's not going to give her that opportunity. And then it's perhaps this theme of fate, in the sense that once Iago has put it into his head that she is cheating on him, he can't let go of that. He's just consumed by this jealousy. It's Desdemona's fateful ending. O perjured woman, thou dost stone my heart. And so here Othello says to Desdemona, and this is really a nice quote, because it shows his transformation as a character. And he's basically saying that she has turned his heart to stone, that he has become maybe more cynical, and now he's so ready to kill her. And he sort of blames it on her, it seems like, in this quote, which is pretty insane. Then he actually kills Desdemona, and then he remarks, I have no wife. So he comes to the realization that he has killed his wife. O heavy hour, methinks it should now be a huge eclipse of sun and moon, and that the affrighted globe should yawn at alteration. So Othello says this after he has this whole statement, or this part where he talks after he's killed Desdemona, and he says, and this just really shows his mixed feelings, because he's like, I feel like there should be a huge eclipse of the sun and the moon, like something major should happen in the world to commemorate or just to signify the death of this amazing woman, Desdemona. So it's a bit ironic, because he has just killed her and that's why she's dead, but he thinks that something exceptional should be happening because this amazing woman has just died. Oh, falsely murdered, a guiltless death I die. So Desdemona says these words as she is dying, and she says that she has been falsely murdered. She's been murdered for no reason. She dies a guiltless death. She's innocent. And then Emilia is overhearing this because she's come into the room, and she says, and Desdemona then proclaims, nobody, I myself, when she's asked, who did this to you and who is to blame, and she says, no one's to blame, I myself am to blame. And so she goes to her death saying that she's the one responsible for her death, even though she's definitely not, and she's been falsely murdered. And Othello's reaction to that is not like, oh my gosh, I actually killed her and now she's dying and it's my fault and terrible. He says, she's like a liar gone to burning hell. 'Twas I that killed her. So he says, she's lying as she's going to hell. I was the one who killed her, and she's now telling you that it's her fault. Like, I killed her, she's a liar. So he's really still consumed by this rage. So he's sort of going from, feeling a little remorseful, but then he flips back very strongly to being extremely jealous and rage-filled and violent. Thou art rash as fire to say that she was false, Emilia says to Othello. And now we see a really different side to Emilia. She's really going to stand up for Desdemona, and she is going to criticize Othello. And she says, you are crazy if you think that she did not love you and that she was false and that she was cheating on you. Othello says to Desdemona, thy husband knew it all, that it was your husband who told me this, Iago. And Othello continues to talk, and he says, an honest man he is, and hates the slime that sticks in filthy deeds, which is obviously not true, but Othello says to Emilia about Iago that he's this good man who doesn't like any sort of bad deeds. Villainy hath made mocks with love. Emilia says to Othello, she recognizes what's happened. And this is a really great quote, because it just basically summarizes the plot line in terms of a villain has made a mockery of your love, has taken your love and completely destroyed it. May his pernicious soul rot half a grain a day. He lies to the heart. Emilia says, Iago is lying if he says that Desdemona is cheating on you. He's lying through his teeth, sort of thing. Continuing on, I care not for your sword, I'll make thee known. And here we see Emilia as a really brave and courageous woman. She says to Othello, I'm not afraid of your sword, I'm not afraid if you kill me, I'm going to make it known that you killed your innocent wife. The Moor hath killed my mistress, and she screams out that he has killed Desdemona. I told him what I thought, and told no more than what he found himself was apt and true. And this is, once again, one of my favorite quotes, because Iago comes into the room, and he's obviously confronted by Emilia, and he says, I didn't tell Othello I didn't tell him to kill his wife. I just told him what I thought, and he then embellished what I thought, or embellished my few comments, and he found what he thought himself to be true. And it's such an interesting quote because obviously, we can't argue, we cannot not argue that Iago is the villain. But if we look at how he manipulates, he doesn't, he's not audaciously commanding Othello to do bad actions. He subtly manipulates him, and ultimately it's Othello's decision. It's Othello's understanding of what Iago has said, and it's Othello's insecurities and weaknesses that drive him to act as he is. So I definitely think an essay about the fault can really be a mixed response in terms of a paragraph on Othello and how he's responsible for his own demise, and a paragraph on Iago as well, or maybe flipping them around. Iago first, because that's the sort of obvious or overt way in which Othello's downfall is reached, but then a second paragraph about how Othello is the one who actually acts on Iago's interpretation. I will not charm my tongue. Emilia now is like on a roll. She's saying all the truth, and she says, I will not be silent. I'm going to tell the truth. Your reports have set the murder on. She says to Iago, your words and your interactions and your involvement has made this murder happen. I'll kill myself for grief. She is absolutely heartbroken. Thou hast killed the sweetest innocent that ever did lift up eye. Emilia says to Othello, she is angry, she is vulnerable, well, maybe not vulnerable, but she's being incredibly sincere at this point, and incredibly brave as well to be talking to these people like this. She says, you have killed like the sweetest and most innocent person ever. Thy match was mortal to him. Gratiano is in the room, and this is just a quote about a plotline that Brabantio has died, that Othello and Desdemona's marriage really was the tipping point for him, and he's actually died. I found by fortune and did it give my husband. So Emilia says that she found the handkerchief by luck. She gave it to Iago. He begged of me to steal it because he has been begging. Iago then screams at his wife and says, villainous whore. And now Othello finally realizes that Iago is evil, and he says, are there no stones in heaven but would serve for the thunder? He says, is there nothing that's going to strike from heaven to kill Iago? Because now he's really angry. He's finally understood what's going on. And in this commotion, as Emilia is trying to speak, Iago kills his own wife, Emilia. He hath killed his wife. Montano sees this and he says, notorious villain. He calls Iago notorious villain. So that's a sort of nice sort of contrast from the beginning, honest Iago, and he becomes this notorious villain. So if you want to talk about, transformation of reputation, or how reputation is flexible, we can talk about Iago, how he goes from honest Iago to notorious villain. I speak true, one of Emilia's last words. She says, I speak the truth. And then we have the value of the truth over lies or over manipulations. That's another great theme to think about. And Emilia is definitely a symbol of the truth. That was Othello. Othello recognizes that what he has done has completely taken away all of his honor, all of his self-worth, all of his reputation, everything that he has. And he even says that here was Othello, like he's no longer the same person anymore. The Othello that he was, who had all these, who had this amazing reputation, who had all this honor, who had all this success, it's a past life for him. He has now done something so insane and so villainous that he can never recover. For naught I didn't hate, but all in honor. And this is a really interesting quote as well, because Othello recognizes what he's done and how terrible he has acted, how terribly he's acted. But he then comments that I did nothing in hate, but all in honor. And that is true. As much as Othello has done terrible things, he's killed Desdemona, he has, caused havoc, all because of his jealousy. He says he did it all in honor. He wanted to protect his honor. He wanted to protect his reputation. He was never doing it out of hate. And that speaks to sort of his mixed response with Desdemona. Like, he loves her, but he still feels obliged to kill her. And so it's a really interesting dynamic, and it calls into question, once again, this theme of honor and reputation. How much value or how much worth should we put into that theme? How much can we trust reputation and honor? How much, or what lengths do we go to in order to preserve it? How important is it? I never gave you cause. Othello asks for Cassio to be brought in, and he apologizes to Cassio. He says, I do believe it, and I ask your pardon. And Cassio says, never gave you cause, meaning I never gave you a reason to hate me, which is very true. It's all been in Othello's head all this time. Your power and your command is taken off. Lodovico says to Othello, all of your military status, everything, it's, you have no power now. You have done something so incredibly inhumane. Set you down this. Othello then says, he has this sort of final speech, and he asks for them to write down the fact that he was, and as Cassio remarks later after Othello kills himself, he was great of heart. He says, please remember me for all the amazing things I did, for the amazing reputation, the honorable deeds that I did. And also of this, that the fact that he has ruined this all, but don't just remember me by the fact that he's caused all this commotion and he's killed his wife and he's resulted in many other deaths. He says, rather remember me for what I did beforehand as well. Don't forget about the good stuff that I've done, he's basically saying. And that's this theme of, once again, this reputation, honor keeps on going, even the legacy after death. He doesn't want to just be remembered for his failure, his one major failure. He wants to be remembered for all his successes as well. I hope that you found that helpful. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.